Dana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'd love to jump right into it. Most people think that danger kind of comes out of nowhere. In your experience, how often is it actually preceded by warning signs?
It depends because you could talk about danger in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. A lot of the times there are warning signs. A lot of the times we ignore our intuition and it puts us into a dangerous situation. Like I said, danger doesn't discriminate, crime doesn't discriminate. So the way that I live my life is aware, not in fear. It just empowers me to live my life knowing that if God forbid I do find myself in a dangerous situation, I'm going to give myself the best chance to get out of it.
Let's dive more into intuition because I know that's going to be like a theme of what we talk about and trusting yourself and instincts. That said, I do think that at times, like your intuition can be intermingled with like anxiety and fear. Like, how do you know that it's your intuition and it's not just you being like overly anxious?
That's actually a great question because I am an anxious person, but I always say your intuition is your initial gut feeling. It's not something that you sit with and overthink and start feeling anxious about. If you're in a situation or you just meet someone and all of a sudden you feel that something is off, it's not more of like a anxiety, it's more of a I don't know if I could trust this person. Something feels dangerous. The hair on the back of your neck stands up. You get a pit in your stomach. That is your initial intuitive feeling. And that's something that you need to lean into and empower. It's like a muscle. The more that you work it out, the stronger it's going to get. So it's important to lean into.
And I think when people think of like dangerous situations, they think of like being murdered. They think that they're going to walk out in a dark alley and someone's going to come up and like shoot them or stab them or something. But this kind of stuff happens like in everyday situations. Like, what are some of the most common situations that everyday people like experience where a lot of these dangerous situations can creep up?
Honestly, scams more than anything right now. That's something that's just very prevalent in our society. And it's so easy to reach everyone. Everyone has a device in their hand, everyone sits behind a computer screen, and you're getting emails and text messages with links. And if you don't stop and pause and think, like, what is this and what is their motive here? I mean, they could drain your bank account. You could go to a Starbucks and think you're logging onto Wi-Fi, and it could be what's called an evil twin, where basically it's a hacker that it'll say like free Starbucks Wi-Fi. You'll click on that one thinking you're connecting to free Starbucks Wi-Fi, and then anything you do on that device, they could wipe your account clean. You log into your bank account, they have that information. You log into your social media, they have that information. So it's just understanding the different types of threats out there and empowering yourself with knowledge to again handle that situation and just pause and think before you act in a lot of situations.
So how are these people getting these passwords? Is it because they're going through like saved stuff on a computer? Like how are they getting them just by someone clicking a link?
That's actually, I mean, I am not that educated in the cyberspace, but I do know phishing links are a huge issue, and how these hackers, infiltrate our account is once you click that link, whatever magic they're doing behind the scenes, it's, such wasted energy. And if you would think if they would actually do something good in the world and not just hack people, it'd be impressive what they would be able to accomplish. But all I know is that once you click that, it's malware in your account. There's also like the FBI put out a warning of charging stations at the airport. There are certain cords that you can plug into your device that allow hackers to infiltrate your device there. So it's just layers of protection and using, your own charger, as simple as that sounds, when you're traveling, and not clicking any random links or not, logging into your bank account using Wi-Fi. And if you're using Wi-Fi, a VPN is so important. So if you're a traveler staying in hotels, if you work, at a coffee shop, often always have a VPN.
What is a VPN?
So it encrypts your data so that it makes it so hackers can't hack your account. So for instance, if you do, again, I really, really advise against using free Wi-Fi, but if you log into the Wi-Fi and you're using a VPN, it basically puts up a barrier where it makes it nearly impossible, unless they're incredibly, incredibly skilled, to hack that device. And it's just a layer of protection that it's like when you pay, you know what I mean? Like if you use Apple Pay, it encrypts your information differently than if you swipe a card, or when there's, the skimmer devices that you see all over the news where, people are tapping their card and they're stealing their information that way. The It's insane. The scammers just keep evolving, and we have to stay on top of it and educate ourselves as to what's out there so that we could, handle it and avoid getting scammed.
Yeah, I get like a million spam calls a day. I wish there was like a filter where it would just block anyone that could potentially be spamming. And you get emails, you get texts, you get like, "Hey, I'm so and so recruiter," or "Hey, I have this financial opportunity," or um, "Here I'm trying to like your like Facebook account or your Instagram account has been hacked." Or you violated a community guideline, and then they get you to click into it, and sure enough, you've given away your password, and now like you've lost everything. You talked about the VPN being like a good guardrail for people. You personally, like, what else do you do to protect yourself from like this, being a way that your life gets ruined?
I actually recently did this for my entire family. I There's different services, so you obviously can look into what you use. I use Incogni, and this is not sponsored. They don't pay me to talk about anything. I just haven't used them and love them. Basically, it removes your data faster than you could ever do that online. And a lot of the reasons why you're getting these spam phone calls or emails is because your data is being sold on God knows where on the online world. And so by doing so, it removes that data or suppresses that data, so it's not being sold, it's not being out there for the world to see and use and contact you. My god, my dad has been a victim of identity theft so many times, and I was like, we are doing this, I'm sitting down, you put in your phone number, your email, your home address. I mean, you could Google people and literally see like where they live and what their phone number is. It's wild. And because of what I do, I think it's really important to try and minimize that. Obviously, it keeps coming up, and these sites that you sign up for, they're constantly trying to remove. So it's like your data continues to leak, they're checking the main sites through the data brokers to see where it is, and then they're taking it on themselves to remove your information. So highly recommend a site like Incogni, not sponsored again. I think Delete Me's one. There's a ton of them. Just do your research and see what resonates with you.
That's wild. That's crazy. And I think that you hear a lot that predators and creeps and people that want to take advantage of you, they can kind of just spot you. I don't know how. I mean, I don't know what characteristics. Maybe if you're just like walking maybe with your head down, or you're like distracted or whatever. Like, what are some of the mistakes you think people make that make them vulnerable to people that are trying to take advantage of them?
A distracted person is an easy target. That's something that I literally say all the time. And with phones and just devices, you see it every single day. People are walking around with their head buried in their phone, they're scrolling, they're distracted, they're digging in their purse. And by simply minimizing the distraction and being aware, you're going to be a less ideal target. There was some study I remember, I don't know if this was when I was back in college, or I think that they did it then, they did one more recently, where they took a pool of inmates and I don't know if it was security footage, but they were doing a surveillance of a crowd, and they all picked the same target. And it was because of how they were walking and how distracted they were. So as a woman living in the world, something that I always talk about is, phone down, head up, aware of your surroundings. You need to see and be able to hear who and what's around you. And the way that you walk, as dumb as this sounds, matters. So walk like you have places to go, people to see. You're walking with authority, you're walking with confidence. Even if you don't know where you're going, walk with confidence. And that right there could deter something that you might not have any idea, would deter. It's a crazy thing, and it's such a simple tweak, but it can make all the difference in the world.
So, taking this one step further, like, how can people like learn how to quickly recognize when something feels off in an environment they're in?
In our society, especially women, we are taught to, silence that inner voice for fear of being, you're overreacting or you're being dramatic. So I want you to really hone in, and this is guys or girls, but hone in on that gut instinct and your gut feeling. And when you feel that something is off, sit with it. It's as simple as that. Sit with it for a minute and just do a little bit of a deep dive, like, why do I feel this way? And it doesn't even have to be danger. It could be a coworker, it could be a new friend you go out to lunch with and you leave and you're just like, something felt off. I don't know really what. There's nothing really to put my finger on, but something felt off. I wonder why. And then you put a little bit of a guard up so that you proceed with caution.
Yeah. And um, so let's just say somebody's walking down the street and there's people walking past them. Doesn't matter if they're a man or if they're a woman. People are walking past them, and they want to know if something feels off, if that person is either harmless or they're not? Like, how are there anything that other than, like, trusting your gut, is there anything any other signs or behaviors by this other person that would, like, give off that they're trying to do something, that's going to result in them, being a predator or something?
I mean, that's hard because it's like, you never want to profile, but if you see someone that's just acting suspicious, their behavior is not matching everyone around them, whether they're circling back, let's say you're being followed and, you kind of are getting this weird gut feeling that there's someone near you. You don't understand really who yet or why, but you have the feeling you're being followed. I always say, keep your distance, but make it just like change your course of your path, change your course of action. So if you're walking down the street and you know that you're about to go into a parking garage, but you feel that something's off, don't go into the parking garage. Circle back. Check, you get really creative. I had a Secret Service agent that was a professor of mine. He taught us to use our reflection to our advantage. So if you're out and about and you just like don't necessarily want to look paranoid where you're like turning over your shoulder and being like, what's going on? Who's around me? You use a store window, a car mirror, and you could just take a glance and see, is anyone behind me? Is anyone following me? And never isolate yourself in a situation. If you feel that something's off or someone's off, you stay where it's populated, or pop into a store. Did that person stop? Sit, drop something? Did that person change their course to match yours? Cross the street. Did somebody out of that crowd cross the street with you? It boils down to awareness is the most powerful form of self-defense you can have and you could utilize. And it's the easiest thing to do by just simply being aware of who and what's around you.
The biggest thing you can do is to just not be on your phone, right?
Not 100%. I mean, the second you're on your phone, we all zone out. Like, I mean, if you want to scroll at home. If you're in, say, a parking lot, I see it all the time. Women will literally like get in their car, sit down, and they'll start answering emails and text messages, and they don't even lock that door. And the amount of women that have written in saying that they were in a scary situation or in a dangerous situation. I had a video go viral a while ago about just the simple tip of locking your door the second you get in your home or your car. And it has saved a lot of women from scary situations where they will say, like, I'll get in my car because of you. I made it a habit, became second nature. You don't even think about it anymore. They're like, I lock my husband out of the house all the time, which is fine that he can knock. But you're in a parking garage and you get in your car, you lock your door. I had a woman that said she didn't know she was being followed, but because of that habit, she locked her door. And 2 seconds later, there was a man at her passenger door rattling the door, trying to open it. She's like, and if I didn't provide that barrier, if I didn't give myself that out, and just by doing one simple thing and not being distracted, not getting in my car and scrolling first and just clicking that button, she's like, I don't know what would have happened. And that's what's so scary to think about. But again, just the little tips and things that you do and you implement into your life that become a habit can save you from a dangerous situation without you even knowing it.
So what would you say is, like, the first thing somebody can do if they think they're being followed and maybe their car isn't around them? Like, what's the first, plan of attack?
It's different. So, I mean, a lot of times women are followed in their car. A lot of times women are followed on foot. If you're on foot, I always say stay where it's well lit and populated. Never isolate yourself or try and make a run for it. If you can, hop into a restaurant or store, anywhere where there's people is going to be your best bet. But don't feel afraid to hop on the phone with 911 and immediately tell the person where you are and what's going on, the operator, and send help and let it that loudly be known. Like if you're isolated somewhere and there's somebody that's giving you a really bad vibe and you are truly scared for your safety, call 911. Layers of protection, layers of defense is something I also preach and practice myself. Carry whatever you feel comfortable and confident, most importantly, using. But that could be as simple as pepper gel, pepper spray, a personal alarm. There are a ton of different weapons out there. If you never want to get into a hand-to-hand combat situation, that's something that I always say to women. Like that's the last resort. A lot of people will be like, do you believe in self-defense? And I'm like, absolutely. It's empowering. Go do it. It's a great workout. It's fun. It's good to know, but that's not the situation you want to be in. You want to create distance. And then let's say you're being followed in your car. Never, ever drive home. I can't even tell you how many women in stories that I've seen where they'll be like, oh my God, I tried to get home to my husband, or I tried to get home to my dad, or whatever it was. Do not drive home. Keep your doors locked, windows up, stay on the, well-populated roads, hop on the phone with 911. The operator's probably going to tell you to go to the nearest police or fire station and just keep your distance. Don't engage, don't acknowledge it. Just you're cool as a cucumber and let somebody intervene, ideally law enforcement in that situation.
So how do you know if someone's actually following you by car? Like, is there amount of time there is? Because like sometimes it's just really random. You're like, oh my God, that's my neighbor that I didn't know. You know?
Exactly. You know, it's happened to me a couple of times. I have been followed in a car before, but it's happened to me a couple of times where someone's just going in the same direction as you, but being aware of that, you're clocking it. You're like, okay, I've made a couple of turns. They're making the same turns. Is it coincidence or are they on to me? Are they like following me for some reason? So I would say make like three left turns or just three to four random turns. And if you pull into a gas station, pull back out. Did they stop at the gas station or are they doing the same thing? You could very easily and pretty quickly see if someone's following you or if it's just a coincidence just by making random turns and changes in direction and odd behavior like pulling over, stopping. Are they stopping? Okay, I'm going to keep driving. Now they're driving behind me. Okay, this person is in fact following me. This is not a coincidence anymore.
And I think a lot of times I think people can be naive, or they think that people are just innocent and they're not dangerous, and they try to trust somebody else's intentions. How can they spot like deception, or if someone's lying to them? Like how can they truly tell if what somebody is telling them is actually off?
That's such a hard question because in the world that we live in, you want to be able to go about your life and think that everyone has good intentions, but that's just not the world that we live in. So personally, the way I live is just a little bit more guarded. I'm not, I don't stay home. I don't live in a bubble. I go live my life, but I am pretty reserved in the beginning and people wouldn't even sense it because I'm getting to know them more than they're getting to know me. So when I was, in the dating world, I would never overshare on a first date. I wouldn't let the person know which gym I go to or where I live. There's so many little things that could protect you until you get to know somebody. You don't know this person and you don't know if you could trust them. So if it's somebody that you're interested in dating or somebody that you work with or somebody that you just met that you think could be a friend, get to know them and make sure that you feel that you can trust them before you're in a situation where you trust blindly and then, God knows what happens.
Let's talk about dating. There's a lot of people that are single. I mean, you and I are very lucky that we're married and we don't have to worry about that anymore. That said, I mean, this is a struggle for people, and they struggle with deception, lying. I mean, now everything is app focused, which, obviously is good. That's how I met my wife. That said, like a lot of bad stuff happens. Like, what's the playbook for protecting yourself?
Yeah, everyone's dating online these days, and you're meeting somebody a lot of the times that you've never met. You don't have mutual friends. You matched on, whatever app you're using, and you're going out in the world and meeting this person for the first time. So I actually talk a lot about this. And for women, I say do your homework. As you see all these videos that are being funny where they like act like they're the FBI, but to some degree, you like almost want to do that where you just want to make sure this person checks out. So if you meet somebody online and you're vibing, just don't jump right into a date. Get to know them a little bit more. I always say, check them out, check their social media, check their LinkedIn. Are they who they say they are? Is there anything online? Look for the mysterious wedding ring, like check their photos, check the background of their photos. Just make sure this person is number one, in fact, a person and who they, if they are who they say they are. And something that I love to do and something that I tell all my single friends is you have to do a FaceTime date first. Do a vibe check. That way you have a screen there. You know what I mean? You're not out in person. You're not in a dangerous situation and you get to see how this person makes you feel. And if it's a great conversation and you're loving it, go on a date. But first date, also, you want to make sure that you're meeting at a just populated place. Like go to a bar, go to a restaurant. Don't go on a hike. Don't go on a 3-hour road trip with this person. It's just simple tips and steps that you could take to protect yourself. And hopefully they're just, they're a great guy and you end up falling in love and getting married is the goal in the whole dating world. So it's just protecting yourself and trusting yourself and making smart decisions while you're getting to know someone.
Did you ever see that show, You?
Oh my God. Yes. The creepiest show ever.
Yeah, and I think it goes in line to like what we're talking about, and it's like the next level of content I want to get into is around like, people always want to see they always want to trust people's intentions, right? I've said that before. And people, like when they're dating, they're like looking for love, they're looking for someone that likes them, and people like that show, obviously it's fake, but that stuff in some ways happens very regularly, where you have somebody who puts on, a really good first impression, and then months go by and you're like, oh my gosh, this person is like literally psychotic, psychotic. Um, how can somebody spot, like, I mean, I know the word narcissism gets thrown around so much. I hate to kind of throw this in there. That said, like, with your content, what you talk about, I think it's important. Like, how can somebody tell if they're just totally being like deceived and that that person is actually somebody that could be very harmful for them, long term?
Yeah, and you know what? It's hard to do, but take off the rose-colored glasses. In the dating world, you could get so caught up in the moment or your feelings for somebody that you miss so many signs in the very beginning, and details matter. So, how does this person talk? Are they talking about themselves the entire date? Do they care to get to know you? Do they sound too good to be true? Because if they do, sometimes they are. Maybe they're not, but see that through. You know what I mean? If you have that feeling and you wonder, are they too good to be true? Ask yourself, all right, I'm going to now pay closer attention. How they treat people around them, how they react to you in certain situations. Do they have a temper? I mean, there's so many different things. Are they trying to isolate you from your friends? Are they overly jealous? There's a lot of things that we're like, oh, well, we make excuses both ways. We make excuses like, oh, well, they do this because of this. And oh, maybe just he had a rough childhood and whatever it might be. But no, those are actually things to stop and pay attention to, because if you're going to get into a partnership with somebody, you want to make sure that this person is safe for you to do so with, and not missing those little cues and not making excuses for them if something is concerning. If your friends are also like, hey, we don't like this. Like, we noticed this and have you seen it? And you're like, well, wait, no. Sometimes those around you and those people that love you are going to see things that you can't. And it doesn't mean getting aggravated and being like, well, you don't know him like I do. It's like, okay, thank you for telling me that. Noted. And then you move forward with that in mind.
Well, and I think a lot of this comes back to self-confidence, right? I think because it'll be easier to walk away from situations like you're describing if you're confident. It'll be easier to not settle if you're confident. What role does self-confidence play in everything that we're talking about, and how can people what are some of your top tips for building confidence?
This is crazy because I've actually never shared this publicly before. And the fact that we're talking about it, I feel like it just feels real and natural to share. I had a college experience where I played Division I college soccer, and my career was not what I wanted it to be. And I was heartbroken over it. And when I graduated college, I had lost myself, and I was a shell of who I once was because my college career was so disappointing and it didn't live up to the hype and what I wanted for myself. And I was really at a point in my life where I was at a low and I was lost. And I got into a relationship with a guy that I would have never ever dated. He was a narcissist. I would have never ever dated if I was the confident version of myself. And it's it's so important that women don't, and men don't, get into these relationships. Like, if you know you're going through a tough time and you're single, it is so important to love yourself first, to build yourself up first, to get to a place where you don't need anybody else and you don't need to fill a void that whatever you're feeling, you think, oh, well, a romantic partner would make me feel better about myself. If you're not the best version of you, what you attract is not going to be something that you want. And let me tell you from my own experience, when I ended that relationship, which was also very hard to do, I was cheated on multiple times. It was a lot. It was a lot. And I look back and it doesn't even feel like that was my life. That's how different of a person I was. And I started listening to my family who were, and my friends being like, this is so toxic. You have to get out of this. And it took a lot. And once I did, I focused on myself and I was like, okay, who's Dana? I need her to come back. I need the silliness. I need the confident Dana to come back out. And once I did that and I was working out, I was literally like, I wrote dating off. I'm like, I'm not worried about the dating world right now. And I just focused on me. I surrounded myself with my family and my friends that made me feel good. And I ate healthy and I was working out. Fitness was always a form of therapy for me. And I really got myself back. And once I did, is when I met my husband. And it was, I attracted what I was putting out into the world. And I'm very lucky that I did that first before getting back in the dating world, because it's not a time to date when you're not feeling your best.
Yeah, I mean, you got to love yourself first, right? I mean, we hear this so much, but it's so true because not only, I mean, will you attract that better person, right? But you will make better decisions in the process. Because I think at the end of the day, it's so easy to blame the person, which obviously there's people that do terrible things. I'm not going to dispute that. That said, if we were to really be honest with ourselves, there's certain things we did that were like, I probably could have done that differently, or I probably should have, not painted that red flag green, or whatever the example is. Um, you touched on a few like red flags about somebody in a first date. What are some like green flags? Let's turn this around a little bit. Like, what are some like positive things you think people should look for? I mean, not just, so to speak, in a partner, because this isn't like going to be about relationships, so to speak, but to know that they're actually like dating somebody that is who they say they are.
You leave and you feel good. Like you spend time with someone, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a coworker, whether it's a romantic partner, you leave and you feel good. You're not left questioning, or you have these weird feelings, or like, oh, that didn't add up, or I didn't like how that was said, or his tone was off here. You leave feeling good, and they do what they say they're going to do. I mean, that's just very simple, but somebody following through on their word, we always say actions, are much more meaningful than words. And that's always been how I view things. But it's the little things that are green flags. And I mean, again, it's, even though I will say this, to take a step back though, because I don't want anything to get lost in translation. Somebody that could be very manipulative could portray green flags immediately. And you think, oh my God, this person is it. This is amazing. I hit the jackpot. And then as you get to know them slowly and slowly, maybe that actually isn't who they are. That's an act, that's a front. So although green flags are a good sign, I always say take green flags with a grain of salt, and just make sure that those green flags keep showing up, and you're not just saying like, oh, well, this green flag outweighs this red flag, but in making excuses, again, back to what I said before. So green flags are good, and obviously you want to just always proceed with caution in the world that we live in with anybody until you get to know somebody.
Speaking of dating, I'm a huge fan of Uber. That said, people Uber to dates all the time, and they use other things too. But typically, it's like I'm going to catch an Uber. I'm going to take an Uber here or there, and you have to be careful. And I know I've seen you post content around this. Like, what are some of the things that people don't think about when it comes to taking an Uber, and then how can people protect themselves?
So many people just get in the car and they think it's their Uber, even if it's not. I cannot stress enough that, especially in the world that we live in these days, I mean, it's funny because 30 years ago, it's like, don't get in a car with strangers. And here we all are getting in a car with strangers. And you want to make damn sure that what you're seeing in person matches what you're seeing in the app. So that is the make, the model, the color of the car, the license plate, the driver's name, the driver's photo. Like, it sounds crazy to make sure that you hit that checklist before you get in the car, but it takes maybe 20 seconds before you get in to verify that, okay, this is in fact my ride. And then taking it a step further, even if all those boxes are checked and you get in, you have to be aware of your surroundings. Don't sit there in the back scrolling on your phone. Make sure that you're going in the direction that you're supposed to be going in. And another thing is sharing your ride. You could do it through the app. I have my location on when I'm out and about. Both my parents and my husband have my live location. And just, again, trust yourself in the moment. If something starts to feel off, there's no reason you have to stay in that situation. There's no reason you have to stay in the car. I have had friends and I've had girls write in where they will make excuses. I say lie to survive. That's one of the things that I preach in any situation where it's de-escalation to safety at the end of the day. And it could be as simple as, oh my God, I really don't feel good. I think I'm going to throw up. Can you pull over? And then run. Like, get out of the car. If the guy's creeping you out, if something feels off, you don't need to continue that trip. You could stop right there and get out. But the main thing is doing your homework on the spot and making sure that that is in fact your vehicle. That's in fact your driver. They know your name. Like, they're not, there were cases, and it's happened multiple times. I hear horror stories, which is why I do what I do, honestly, because I just want to spread awareness and empowerment over fear. But do not ingest anything in the vehicle as well. So like water, mints, snacks, do not. I had this horrible case. Basically, long story short, the water was tampered with and it wasn't a good end. And just those layers of protection, again, not ingesting things, making sure you're in the right car. It's little, but it could mean the difference of danger versus safety.
Yeah, and I just think people just are. I think the biggest takeaway I'm getting so far from this conversation is around self awareness and around being intentional and being, just being in tune with what's going on. I think that's a skill as well. Just like I think confidence is a skill you got to work on. self-awareness is too. Like, what are some of your tips for people trying to develop self-awareness?
So this is something that was taught to me by my professor, former Secret Service as well. He called it the 10-second rule. And this is something that I do without even thinking about it. And I did this growing up to some degree. My mom was a flight attendant. We used to play like the exit game. We get to a hotel and she'd be like, "Hey, do you know where the exits are?" And to this day, any establishment I get in, I just clock the exits. It's just like it's like second nature to me. But the 10-second rule is simply when you arrive at a destination, whether familiar or unfamiliar, you sit down and you take 10 seconds and you're just aware of your surroundings, who and what's around you, where are your exits, can you see the door, does anything feel off? If not, live your life, great. But then while you're living your life, if there's a threat, somebody comes in, you know where the exits are. If something starts to feel off, you know how to get out of that situation. And it literally takes less than 10 seconds to do. And it's just awareness. Awareness is your most powerful tool for self defense.
It takes 10 seconds, right? And I think the bigger thing too is like just not being glued to your phone. And I think that with apps and stuff, like, I hate, like, I'm very vocal. I hate Snapchat. I think especially for kids, it's like the worst. It's like the worst thing in the world. Just given all of the safety concerns and that, kids are being sold drugs on there, and there's a lot of predators on the app and stuff. I mean, I know people use it for good as well. That said, I think it can be very risky for kids. But how can people be smarter on like apps, like social media apps? Because people, I feel like there's a lot of communication that goes on apps. They're meeting people through social media. How can people be smarter there?
Don't overshare. Simply don't overshare. And what's crazy is I see it all the time. You might think you're being safe. It's like not posting in real time. It's very simple things. You go out with the girls, you want to take a cute photo. Don't post it while you're there. If you go live on a story, before you are going out, don't share that until after the night. Like you don't need to be like, "Hey, this is where we're going. I'm going to this bar, then this restaurant, then wherever it is." Because if you have a public account and you're putting stuff out in the internet, odds are you're going to be fine, but you also don't know who's watching. So don't overshare, don't share in real time, and also be very mindful of what you're posting. Can you see your home address in the back? Can you see where you work? Can you see your car and your license plate? You never want to give away personal details. And that's especially important with kids because the amount of times I see moms where they'll, take a photo of their kids and post it. And, I say people a lot of the times will be like, "So you're really against sharing your kids online?" And for me personally, yes, if you're going to, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to judge you for it, but do it in a safe way that protects your children. So make sure you're covering their school, their sports team, because again, if you're posting out for the world to see, you don't know who's on the other end of it. And you don't ever want to put yourself or your kids in a situation where somebody can find you because of something that you posted.
Yeah, and I think it's also important, like if you're going to delay posting, like to communicate, like with your significant other, your kids or something. So you're being, because I remember like just innocently, we had planned dinner and I went to Chipotle and I had like gotten a healthy bowl and I posted it like hours later or something. Just maybe by accident that forgot to post it. And my wife texted me, I was like, "I thought we're doing this for dinner." And I was like, "Oh no, yeah, yeah." So I think it's important to also like if you're communicating, you're like, "Hey, I'm going to the gym at 1," and then you post at like 3, you're not like, "Hey, like what happened there?" Right. So I think that's also important. And I have heard, and maybe you have knowledge on this. Doesn't like a lot of like child pornography happen when they're cropping like kids' faces or something off of photos online? Is that true? Or
What goes on is horrific. I work with Child Rescue Coalition and they are incredible. They basically they created a software that they give to law enforcement. They train them with the software and it helps them catch online predators. But the parents don't understand the risks of sharing their kids online, especially with AI now too. And I see it all the time. It's just, oh my goodness. It's if you don't know yourself or you haven't seen it, it's very easy to, think like, "Oh, well, it's not gonna happen to my kid, it's not gonna happen to me." But at the end of the day, if you're sharing your kid online, especially, like, be mindful of what they're wearing. You know what I mean? Like, protect your kid at all costs. There's so many people out there that are just doing horrific things, and educating yourself is the best thing you could do as a parent to know what is out there before you decide to share your kid with the world.
it's crazy that we even have to think about this stuff, isn't it?
It's horrible. It really is. It's sickening, and I always say, in my perfect world, I wouldn't have a job. I wouldn't have written this book. We wouldn't need it. And I hate to say that, it's like People have asked me before, like, is the world mostly good or mostly bad? And I will say, I always feel the world is mostly good, but we cannot forget that there is bad out there. There is evil out there that walks among us and we don't even know it. I mean, you see all the time, like, it's like a high school teacher that's arrested, it's a priest, it's a coach, it's like the next door neighbor down the street that you would have never, ever even remotely thought was doing anything behind closed doors. You just never know what's out there, and you have to educate yourself and just take steps to keep yourself and your family safe at the end of the day.
What do you think's one habit that people do every day that they think's harmless that's actually putting their safety at risk?
Scrolling. Scrolling, yeah. It's as simple as that because I it's you're walking around with your head buried in your phone and you have no idea what is going on around you. I mean, it's this is so stupid, but I had a friend the other day, actually a month ago, walking texting and broke their ankle. Like, it's as simple as that. It doesn't even have to be dangerous. She felt like such an idiot. She was like, she called that. She's like, I'm a moron. She's like, because I was sitting, she's like, you're going to kill me because of what you do. But I was literally texting. I was walking in the curb and I just misstepped and broke my ankle because I was on my phone and not aware. And I'm like laughing, but at the same time, I'm like, no, that sucks. I'm so sorry. But being aware is the most simple thing you can do, and I think scrolling is honestly one of the most dangerous things that I see these days.
And so, do you think that people? I mean, how do you convince someone that's like, oh, it's never going to happen to me? Like, what do you say to people like that?
You know, that's hard because people have to live their own lives, and if they don't wanna be aware, they don't want the education, then that's how they choose to live, and I have nothing else to say about that. Obviously, I wish that wasn't the case, but, you know, the mentality I think honestly, the most dangerous mentality that you can have is it's not gonna happen to me, and you don't have to live paranoid, you don't have to live scared, you have to just live aware and educated, and I think having that education and that knowledge is what empowers me personally to live life to the fullest, to go out and live my life and know that I will be able to handle something if shit hits the fan. And that's just my mindset, but not everybody is going to, you know, adopt that.
Yeah. What's like the biggest like takeaway you want from your content for people? Like, if you were to say, hey, I post a lot of content, I have tons of people I reach every day. Like, what's the biggest like hack you want them to learn?
I mean, it's my motto, the whole live aware, not in fear. A lot of people will say, like, oh, you're fear mongering for views and likes. And I'm like, first off, I started this. I would have never in a million years dreamt that I would be sitting here on a podcast having a conversation about safety. It's been a long time coming because this is truly who I am to my core. But I think my first safety video was like March maybe of 23. And it's, you know, so in the grand scheme of life, I haven't been doing this that long. But when I started this, it stemmed from such a genuine place. If I had this degree, I had this knowledge that I didn't do anything with. I didn't say this before, but I wanted to go to Quantico. I wanted to go to the FBI. That's what I had my sight set on that. And I declared criminology and psychology first semester freshman year, and 4 years came and went, flew by. I came across a professor, the one I've discussed many times now in this interview. His name was Chuck Barth. He was the former Secret Service agent. Him coming into my life ended up changing the trajectory of my life because 2 weeks before I was set to graduate, he sat me down and he was like, you know, I was a closet nerd. I graduated with over a 4.0 GPA. I loved what I was doing and I was so driven. I think athlete mentality, you put blinders on sometimes and you're like, have the end goal. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And we had a discussion, and he was like, listen, you are an incredibly empathetic and deep feeling person. And I worry what your long term mental health will be in this field. You don't really have the ability to compartmentalize, which I don't. I really don't. If something is weighing me down, if something is on my mind, it bleeds into every aspect of my life. And it's what I do now. There are times where I come across a case that's horrific and heavy and it stays with me forever. I think about certain things, you know, multiple times a week now that I've come across it or met a victim or a parent or something like that. But he opened my eyes and I was like, okay, well, I need to take a step back now because I never really considered this for myself. I ended up going a different direction. Fitness was, you know, something that I was good at. It was easy to fall into because that was the necessary evil with soccer, but I loved it. But once fitness became my job, it took that healthy outlet away from me. And I realized that this wasn't my true calling. And again, I kind of felt lost. And then there were certain catalysts that kind of catapulted me into doing what I'm doing now. One of them was I lost Chuck and the talent of COVID unexpectedly. And losing him, you know, he always kept me in that crim and psych world. And we talked about so many different things. And I mean, this man was, he became a mentor, he became family, he was at my wedding. So losing him was groundbreaking for me. My book is dedicated to him. So much of the knowledge that I share in this book is from him. And, I was lost for years and didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do. I was kind of continuing in the fitness world. I became a mom. I saw the world through a different lens for the first time. And I didn't have Chuck to call for a lot of things. And it just always ate at me. I had this hole in my heart that became painful losing him. And then there was a mass shooting in my hometown, Highland Park 4th of July parade shooting. And then not long after that, the Idaho 4, which I, as a mom, just viewed these things much differently. And also, it showed me that crime doesn't discriminate and it can happen anytime, anywhere, even in your safe bubble. Like, I would have never imagined there would have been a mass shooting in my hometown, and yet there was. And I just remember crying my eyes out, nursing my son, being like, I didn't do anything with this degree. It's just wasted education. I have all of this knowledge from my own life experience and all of the amazing, incredible people that I have crossed paths with, like Chuck. I just know that if I share this, I could change one person's life, or if I could save one life, it's all worth it. So that's what I brought to the table when I started doing this. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to get knowledge and awareness out into the world, and it snowballed. I would have never in a million years thought that this would have happened. It was like, I want to say 10 months, I hit 1 million followers. Then another 5 months, I hit 2 million. And the messages that came pouring in were so incredibly heartbreaking at times, but so rewarding that I was like, this is something that's so special. So the takeaway and the reason that I do what I do and the book is awareness is your best first line of defense, and you don't need to live aware. I don't want you to shrink back. I want you to go out and live a powerful life. I want you to go have fun. I want you to go do what you want to do, travel the world, see the world, but do it with a street smart head on your shoulders, because at the end of the day, awareness is always going to be the thing that's going to give you the best opportunity to keep yourself safe. That's a very long-winded answer.
No, it's really good. I'm glad you put it that way. And I think that one of the other things that people have a hard time with is lying. And I know obviously I don't want to like condone lying, but I know you talk about that sometimes it's okay to lie to protect your safety. Like, how can people get over that like moral thing?
That's so funny. I do. I get that. That's like the one thing where the one negative comment whenever I post about lie to survive, people will be like, it's not okay to lie. I'm like, listen, I fully understand. And I'm not saying go out and be an asshole and try and deceive everyone in your path, but you do not owe a stranger your truth at all. And I mean, the stories I have made up in the back of Uber drivers, like Uber cars, it's almost kind of fun because you just get to become this person or this story, whatever you want to be. And I know that sounds bad, but at the end of the day, I'm not saying that I live here and this is my home. I'm saying, I'm in town visiting and I'm going to a surprise party where there's 30 people inside this house and it's my brother's house, whatever it is. And it is my home, whatever, at the end of the day, you do not owe a stranger your truth. And it's always de-escalation over confrontation, and lying your way out of certain situations is the best way to do that. In a perfect world, no would be a complete sentence. As a woman, especially, a lot of the times it's not. It's, oh, challenge accepted. So lie to survive gives you the opportunity, gives you an out, gives you an escape without having a problem, without getting rude, without having a man in your face or another woman in your face or whatever situation, or an Uber driver in your face, whatever it ends up being. And it gets you to safety. So if lying at the end of the day, if you can lie yourself to safety, I will literally die on that hill.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I see both, obviously I see both sides. I think that you don't want it because that can develop into a habit, right? You get used to like lying so much, then you start lying in other areas of your life that you don't need to lie about. Like, how can people, like, where's that line? Like, how do people know if they're not crossing over into then just becoming a liar?
I think if you draw the line, I will lie for my safety, and that's it. That's the line I've drawn myself. I don't lie to my family. I don't lie to my friends. I don't lie just to have fun with it. I lie if I'm with a stranger that doesn't deserve a truth, that's asking questions that are a little bit too personal. I lie if I just met somebody and they don't need to know that I live down the street. Like, where do you live? Like, oh, I'm actually just visiting. Like, it's a lie that just it keeps your personal information safe for the time being until you get to know somebody. So it's just about not oversharing and drawing the line where I will lie if it keeps me safe, but I'm not lying for no reason.
That's a good way to put it. Because that way there's like a hard boundary there.
Hard boundary.
Because at the end of the day, like, people you're just meeting, like, if you're in a car or if you're at a party, like, they don't need to know, like, specifics of where you're at.
Exactly, exactly, and I've been and when I say, like, I made up so many stories with Uber drivers and a lot of the times I don't think it's malicious, I think this is just their job and they enjoy connecting with people. I'm not saying all Uber drivers are bad. Now, unfortunately, the wackadoodles have ruined it for all of us because they are out there. We know that they use that to take advantage of getting into a car with a single woman or whatever it ends up being or whoever it ends up being. But at the end of the day, making up those stories of someone saying like, "Oh, are you from here? Where do you live? Where do you go to school? Where do you work?" Like that could just be making conversation, but you also don't know their intentions because you don't know that person. So either being just vague or just no, not no, I don't live here. I'm actually just visiting. I don't really come here often or whatever it ends up being and you live down the street. It's concealing anything that could put you in harm's way when you don't know somebody.
I think a lot of times, like you said before, that, people who are narcissists or toxic or whatever can be really good at pulling the wool over your eyes and manipulating you. Generally speaking, like, is there any kind of framework or skills that people can develop that they can develop, like protection against being manipulated? Like whether if it's in a dating situation or if it's in a person coming up to them, like people in general where they know they're about to be taken advantage of.
I think my best piece of advice is to be slow everything down. Manipulation a lot of the times happens with a scare tactic or urgency and many different facets, whether it's a phone conversation and someone's pretending to be your bank and you're being hacked and I need your information right now or else they're going to drain your account when in reality that's the person trying to drain your account. So if you take a moment and just take a step back and don't make any rash decision, whether it's dating, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a coworker, whatever situation it is, I think that that could be your best layer of defense by just pausing and just being in the moment and saying, does this feel right? Like, I don't know if I could trust this person. This is a little weird. And I don't know necessarily 100% why yet, but I do know that it's weird. So I'm going to lean into that feeling and I'm not going to be forthcoming with whatever information they're asking or moving on to the next date or moving forward in a relationship, whatever it ends up being, if there's any type of reservation or, like I said, that person is putting an immense amount of pressure or whatever it ends up being on you, that the urgency, the emergency, all of that kind of stuff is really important to pay attention to.
What about like entering online info? Like I think people are terrified of having like their identity stolen. Like what tips do you have for that?
Make sure it's a legitimate browser, like make sure it's everything that's legit. So you're getting a text message from your bank asking for your whatever it is, your PIN, your password. Banks aren't going to do that. So again, pausing, and if you're not sure, don't click the link. Don't just jump to whatever they're asking you to do. I think it goes back to the same thing by just pausing, doing your homework and making sure that something is credible and legit before you do anything in the world. It seems like scams are just a dime a dozen these days, and they're infiltrating our lives at a rapid pace and in many different ways, shapes, and forms. And having conversations with your family and with, your elderly grandparents. I am scared to death that, someone's going to call my papa and be able to manipulate him in some situations. So we even say like, hey, if you get a phone call and you're unsure, just like you hang up and you call us. If it's a collector, if it's a whatever it ends up being, we will handle it. Just don't give away any of your personal information right off the bat.
What about like mailing address? Do you recommend people get a PO box? Like I sometimes even like worry about giving my address out with it being like populated on the internet.
I'm very, very careful with giving out my home address now. I don't like it. I don't, especially with what I do. I have a PO box. I actually have a couple of PO boxes just because it's easier depending on where I'm going to be if I'm traveling. But I highly recommend a PO box. I really think at the end of the day, there's no reason to give out your home address. It's a pain in the ass. Don't get me wrong to have to go down, the street to a PO box, but it's your home address. It's where you live. It's where your family lives. So if you don't have to give that out, obviously there's certain documentation you have to, and that's fine. You know what I mean? If it's legitimate, you have no choice. Absolutely. But just be mindful that you're not oversharing that information or just, typing it into whatever shopping site that you're on.
Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you think is relevant to safety, deception, manipulation, not being scammed that we'd like to share?
That's a good question. I mean, I think we covered so much. I think my biggest takeaway is because it's, when I talk about certain things, I feel like there's a chunk of people that will hear the information and, it's very overwhelming, especially if you're just getting into it and you're wanting to learn how to protect yourself. Say you're, a young adult moving out in the world for the first time, where there's this level of, I want to know, but I don't want to become paranoid, where you just take it in bits and just know that the odds of anything happening to you are slim, and you're doing this from a stance of empowerment and not fear, where the knowledge, once you see something, once you hear something, it's in the back of your mind. You have that information, you have that knowledge. Now move on with your life, live your life, and know that because of that knowledge, you should feel empowered to live. And then if something happens, if you find yourself in a situation, you're going to be able to act or react accordingly because of the information and empowerment you live with.
Dana, thank you for coming on the pod and for sharing all of your wisdom and expertise. Where can people find out more about the book and what you do?
So on Instagram, social, I'm just Dana underscore Eve. So DANNAH underscore EVE. And you can grab the book anywhere you buy books, which is crazy. And it's going to be out in the world. And I just truly can't believe this is all happening.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again for coming on the podcast. A lot of valuable information that I think people are going to really enjoy.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.